Does it feel like your worship musicians and your tech media team are just not on the same page? Well, it doesn't have to be. Here's how you can collaborate together. First, you want to identify where your teams may be divided and work towards unity in those areas. Now, when I say unity, I don't mean the absence of diversity. I mean the absence of division. So we're not talking about sameness. We're talking about oneness. Each team may have their own specific language for the unique roles and responsibilities that they have. So the tech media team may be talking about high-pass filters and dB levels, while the band is talking about landing on the 4 or crashing out after 4 measures. Yet, your language should be the same and aligned when it comes to your culture, your vision, and the why behind what you're doing. Psalm 133, 1-3 says, "Where there is unity, God commands a blessing." And we want our ministries and our teams to be blessed. So what does division look like? It could look like one team blaming the other team for mistakes that were made. It could be neglecting to bring each other into conversations so that you're both on the same page. It could be pushing back on requests and just saying no because it's easier. This can cause hurt, offense, and frustration. The disunity off the platform is felt on the platform and in the room, which actually affects the worship moment. It creates an us and them mindset instead of a we mindset. So walk in each other's shoes. Find out what the other team does to prepare. Understand what their role is and all that goes into it. Watch what they do. Ask questions. You can even have fun with this and be creative. Maybe have a tour or an open house where you invite the other team to see a peek behind the curtain to watch how you prepare for worship. Then as teams, let's get better at saying yes or I'll do my best to make that happen instead of just saying no as a knee-jerk reaction. Consider cross-training on tasks and responsibilities. We had several vocalists on our team that learned how to run lyrics, and it was an awesome way for them to understand the preparation that went into it. Here's a big one. Have coaching and development nights together so the production team can develop and raise up their volunteers while the worship team is raising up the musicians and training worship leaders. It provides a safe place for your volunteers to train and make mistakes and learn and grow, while at the same time, you're collaborating with each other as teams, and you're going to see much fruit come from that. Both teams need to make preparation and ownership a priority. Scripture calls us to be good stewards of our gifts. And preparation is actually an act of worship in itself. It honors our teams and it honors God. Whether you're leading a song or playing an instrument, running the lights or a camera, or supporting the teams in any way in worship, taking ownership means we're not just showing up. We're not just mailing it in, but we're taking responsibility and fully engaging in the role that God's called us to play. So in order for worship teams and musicians and tech teams to collaborate together and walk in unity, there needs to not be passiveness. So what does passivity look like? It could look like an attitude or a mindset of just getting by, just getting a job done, complacency, maybe ignoring issues and brushing them off to the side, assuming it's not your responsibility. Have you ever heard on one of your teams, well, that's not my job? Maybe it's not practicing or prepping for your role appropriately. This can cause confusion, frustration, and resentment on both teams. It can lead to mediocrity because team members aren't walking in their full God-given potential. Passiveness can also cause problems and issues when they're left unresolved, which can actually hinder the worship experience. It can cause inconsistency in your services. There will be missed opportunities for growth and progress and a lack of creativity. So make preparation and ownership a priority. Be actively engaged in your role and be intentional to make a decision that you're going to contribute to the team's success. Both teams ask for input from each other and give feedback. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Taking ownership means you're skilling up. Team members are taking courses and classes. They're sharpening their tools so that they can give an excellent offering to God. Preparation and ownership help limit distractions so people can experience the presence of God in the best way possible. It leads to a spirit of excellence because both teams are being intentional about their preparation and their investment. Now let's talk about communication and feedback. This is a huge one in order to collaborate and have unity with your tech team and your platform worship team. This is one of the biggest pain points that I hear about from both teams. There's a lack of communication, or if there is communication, it's not very clear. So I want to remind you, clear communication communicates that you care. So we want to care for each other so that both teams can work together in unity and collaborate. And so make sure that your communication is very clear and concise. And feedback communicates encouragement and constructive assessment so that we can build confidence in our teams. Teams that don't communicate with each other and don't give and receive feedback from each other have issue after issue, and it's a ripple effect that causes inconsistency, complacency, and frustration. We don't want to be ambiguous in our communication or our feedback. What does ambiguity look like on worship and tech teams? Unclear expectations, no clarity on vision or purpose. People on the team don't know what is expected of them, so they're not fulfilling their role to their full potential. This could lead to just winging it or not giving a heads up when there's changes that could actually affect the other team and how they prepared and how they steward their role. Ambiguity could look like avoiding feedback or hard conversations, sweeping things under the rug, hoping that they'll just go away. This can lead to a lack of understanding or team members not knowing what they're empowered to do or how to do it. It could lead to both teams feeling uncertain, unprepared, and lacking confidence. It also causes unnecessary tension and mistrust. And when there is no culture of feedback on a team, then there's not going to be growth in skill and leadership and other areas. One practical way to ensure that there's clear communication on your teams is to put very specific details in Planning Center or whatever planning software that you use. Songs, keys, who's leading them. The more details you put, the more the other team can prepare. So be intentional about that. If you are the worship leader or worship pastor for the weekend, think through your transitions. What are they going to look like? What are the arrangements and versions that you're using? Put those in your planning software. That's going to help the tech team and the musicians prepare better. Learn the language of the other team. I tell vocalists it goes a long way with the tech team when you learn verbiage that they use when you're trying to fix a problem or something in your mix, that you've taken the time to take ownership of your role, but also learn the language of the tech team so that you can properly communicate with them. And when it comes to creating healthy feedback loops, remember, people don't know what they don't know. So we can't be frustrated with people on the other team when we haven't given them feedback and we haven't communicated with them. I would encourage both teams to consider having a debrief meeting. That could be after the first service. If you have multiple services, then you can talk about how it went, how did the transitions feel, do we need to tweak anything? Or you can have also a meeting on maybe Monday or whatever works for your schedule where you talk about the weekend as both teams, what was right, celebrate the wins, but also what was wrong, what was missing, what was confusing. Assign those to somebody to take ownership of it and work on those so that they're not issues in the future. And one way I do this as a worship leader is I make it a priority to connect with the tech team. So after a rehearsal, I always go up and ask, is there anything you need from me? Anything I need to do differently? How are the transitions? I'm inviting them into the conversation and I'm actually asking for feedback. I'm not waiting till they come tell me. I'm asking them, hey, is there anything that I need to tweak or do differently as a vocalist or worship leader? Having these intentional strategic meetings or connection points are going to ensure that y'all are walking in unity. You're going to have more confident, competent musicians and vocalists and production teams who know their role and are pursuing growth. And there's also going to be such trust built with each other as you give feedback because you know that they have your best interest at heart. And lastly, in order to have collaboration and unity between tech teams and worship teams. Make sure that you're prioritizing personal connection and relationships over just day in and day out routines and getting the job done. This means that everyone is prioritizing people over the positions that they hold or what they can do for each other. The routines in worship ministries, the ins and outs, the deadlines, the processes, those are all important and they're necessary, but they're not more important than people. I would encourage both teams to come together as one team, one worship team, and pray together before rehearsal. I know a lot of times we're busy, people come in late, we have a lot to cover, a lot to get done, and sometimes we can kind of gloss over that or push it aside or just shorten it, but don't forsake this time together. Pray together, hear each other's needs, praise reports, great things that have happened in each other's lives. Get to know each other, know the names of their spouses and their kids, ask how they're doing. Knowing the names of the other people on the team is so important and it's intentional. We should never be saying, oh, the tall guy that runs lights, or the tech team talking about, the blonde singer. Let's call each other by name. Let's know each other. Relationships and personal connection are built through time spent together in prayer and worship and outside of the worship service, dinners, coffee hangs, time with families. Be intentional to celebrate milestones, birthdays, anniversaries. Walk with each other through challenges and personal crisis and illnesses and things that each other may go through. And here's some low-hanging fruit: affirmation and appreciation. It goes a long way. Leave a note on the console or bring some cookies for the production team just because. I've even seen a tech engineer put an affirming note underneath each microphone backstage. Don't forget to see and value each other. You are one team with one purpose, one vision. You are not adversaries. And I'll leave you with this. Worship platform teams, your media and tech teams have a lot of stress and pressure on them. They're expected to do a lot of things all at the same time. They're trying to help a lot of people and please everyone. Ask them how you can help them in their preparation and execution. Remember, they're mixing, they're running sound, they're running lights, they're running cameras as their instrument of worship. And to our tech and media teams, remember your creative counterparts, the worship musicians, they have a lot of pressure as well. A lot of it is self-inflicted because of some unresolved insecurity, maybe lack of confidence or pride. So have grace with those who are growing in their craft and come alongside with them and help them and teach them and show them what they don't know about the tech world. I want to leave you with this question. What is one step that you can take to make someone's job easier on the other team? Maybe you haven't taken ownership of your role or function and haven't been preparing properly. A lot of times it's going to be something that you need to do as far as preparation, or maybe there's an offense or there's tension between you and someone on the other team, and that needs to be resolved and reconciled. Whatever it is, just take one step towards unity, because remember, where there is unity, God commands a blessing. I hope this encouraged and empowered you today. Remember, the tech and media team are part of the worship team. You are one team, worship vocalists and musicians and media together, helping steward the atmosphere and host God's presence well. God bless you. See you in the next video.